Introducing the My First Augmented Reality Workbook series from Teacher Goals and Quiver Vision. With the Quiver app, students unlock interactive experiences that teach path of motion, phonics, writing, and more. This is perfect for schools that are one-to-one or have tablet stations set up for students to learn. Our augmented reality workbooks are changing the way kids learn, read, and develop literacy skills. They'll love the interactive experiences, and you'll love the results. Email us today about bulk purchases for your classroom, school, or district. contact@teachergoals.com. My First Augmented Reality Workbook Series, Unlocking the Power of Learning.
Hey, welcome back to the Teacher Goals podcast. This is your host, Erica Terry. Super excited to kick off season 5. I cannot believe it, guys. We are in season 5 of the Teacher Goals podcast, and we have a very unique topic tonight. I'm super excited to talk about it because we never get to talk about social studies. We talk about math, we talk about ELA, we even throw some science in there, but rarely ever do we really get to dive deep into technology tools that can be used in social studies classrooms. So I'm super excited to have our guest, Adam Juarez, with us tonight. I'm super excited to chat with him. He was already schooling me, so I know we're going to have a great conversation because we were already chit-chatting before we got started. As you know, I love to know who we have with us. So if you haven't already done so, tell me where you're from, your role in education, and if you are on the summer countdown like my daughter is, let me know how many days do you have left before the break. While I'm waiting for you all to let me know who's rolling with us tonight, I am Erica Terry, your host. And if this is your first time here, let me kind of tell you how we roll here at the Teacher Goals podcast. I am going to bring Adam up. He's going to share some great tips, tools, and technology tools with us tonight that we can use in social studies classrooms. And then after that, it is time for you to ask your questions. And so as we are talking, feel free to put your questions in the chat, and I will make sure that he gets them and answers them. So definitely we want to hear from you. So any questions that you have, let us know and put them in the chat. And with that being said, I want to say hello to Chanel, who is a middle school math, science, and social studies teacher with 26 days left. Welcome. I'm so excited to have you here with us tonight. I saw that Denise has 25 days. So welcome. So glad to have you here. We have Caesar from Costa Rica. Welcome. So glad that you are able to hang out with us. And last but not least, we have Mackenzie from Ohio, who is a special ed and early ed major with 1 year left in undergrad. So excited to have some college students with us tonight. Welcome. What school in Ohio? I want to know. I'm from Ohio. So, and I'm nosy. So Mackenzie, I want to know, what school are you at? Let me know in the chat. With that being said, guys, it looks like we have most people are in the 20 days left. I feel like here in Georgia, we might have less because they get out right before the holidays. So definitely excited about summer. I will be asking you about your summer plans real soon. So make sure you continue to join us every Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Right here so that we can continue our conversations. And speaking of conversations, let me go ahead and bring up our guest, Adam Juarez. Adam, how are you?
Oh, doing well, doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yes, we are so excited to have you tonight because we never get to talk about social studies. Like, I listen to podcasts all the time. We are on episode 42, I believe. And this is our first episode to specifically talk about strategies that social studies teachers can use. So I'm so excited about that. And as I already explained, I am super nosy. So we're going to jump right in with your story. I want to hear about you, hear about how you've gone from social studies to ed tech coach, consultant, author. Like, give us the deets.
Yeah, so my journey began, I got almost 20 years ago. The I worked in the same school, small rural school district out here in Central California, for 17 years. And I got this interview from the interview that I got was actually the worst interview I'd ever done at a my grad school career fair. And I said, you know what? I can't believe they called me back. I'm just gonna go for some practice. I'm gonna practice interviewing. And lo and behold, they offered me the job on the spot. So I told myself, you know what? I'm gonna go. It's not near my house. It's a long commute. I'm just gonna get. I need a job. Back in 2005, there was 100 people going for every history job. So I just said, I need a job. I'm gonna take it. Stay here for a few years, get some experience. 17 years later, I was still there, and
Wow.
um, yeah, it was that the community grew on me. The demographics were about 95% of the students were the children of Mexican migrant farm workers. You had about 4.5% Filipino. I think I could probably count all the non-Mexican, non-Filipino students I ever had on one hand. It's a very interesting little corner of Central California. And I taught U.S. and world history for middle school and high school for about 10 years. And then assistant superintendent said, "Hey, you're pretty creative with the technology that you do have that we've given you. We have this new position called technology coach. You should go for it." And I went for it. I got the job. And first thing they said, "All right, we just bought all these Chromebooks for testing. So we only test one time a year. We don't do it all the time, but we need to use these Chromebooks, make some use out of them. So we're going to go Google. You got to go learn everything you can learn about Google and bring it back." And I like to think I exceeded their expectations because I went a little crazy on the Google stuff. I, became a certified educator, level 1, level 2, became a trainer, became an innovator, and it just really fed my educator heart and soul with Google and just all the really cool things that it could do. And it got me connected with people all over the world, people with teacher goals. I wouldn't if I didn't made that jump professionally to just dive head first into this new tech coach job. I wouldn't be here talking to you today. That's really what has brought me here today, and it's been again just the whole tech thing, and that's really fed my soul. And it's really I don't work. I'm doing what I love every day, and that has
Yes.
kind of it got me through my divorce. It I eventually met through this network. I met my new wife. Couldn't be happier, and I'm doing well. Got a great job, all because of that. That's kind of my story. And then some serendipitously, I became friends with Amanda Fox and Brad Weinstein and said, "Hey, we see the stuff you're doing. You want to maybe work on doing some kind of a book about Canva in the social studies class?" I'm like, "Oh heck yeah, man! I can't wait to get started."
Yeah, so we are so excited to hear about it. And for those of you that are tuning in, I want you to take some inspiration from that story. He said that First and foremost, it was the worst interview he ever had. I know that it is interview season right now. So if you know, had an interview that didn't go so well, just know, like, keep the faith because you might still get that job. And so, yes, I love that inspiration. And I love how once you got in there, you just continued to work, took opportunities that came your way and just ran with it. And it has just brought you to where you are today. So thank you so much for sharing that inspiration. And we are going to dive into the ed technology tools. Give us, like, tell us about, first and foremost, social studies, because when I think about social studies, I do not think about technology. I definitely don't think about Canva. So kind of just, give us some why social studies, or how social studies, like social studies. How do you, like, incorporate technology into social studies?
Normally, when people think of social studies, they think of some old guy standing up in front lecturing, and you're just sitting there listening. Or a lot of times, it's teachers saying, let's do a popcorn read out of the textbook, and then answer the questions at the end. Maybe memorize some vocab, and maybe you can copy down some places on a map. That's what social studies has been.
Yes.
But my philosophy, not just in social studies, but in education, is that, and I pulled this quote from an inspirational speaker that I look up to, Adam Welcome. He says that we can't teach the Wi-Fi students with landline strategies, and that really hit home with me. And we need to understand that every kid in school today does not know the world without the internet. Their worldview is different from our generation. We have, I think, people in our generation have a healthy respect of the world before the internet and then since the internet, and we have a respect for it. So the students today, they don't know the world without the internet. They're used to having everything on demand in the palm of their hand. We didn't have that back in the day. We had to go through the card catalog and look in encyclopedias and find books, physical books. And I have some fond memories of doing that kind of research, but now I wouldn't go back to it. But every kid now, that's all they know. So if we try to teach kids the way that I was successful in school, especially in a social studies class, then guess what? They're not gonna they we wonder why they don't connect with us. Because I hate to say it, but the way we learned is not applicable to these kids today. We have to kind of meet them where they're at. So using tech tools like Canva and Google Workspace and Microsoft and you name it, they're all great ways to get students involved in the creative process. And if we allow kids to use technology to be creative while they learn, they're much more likely to engage with it and comprehend stuff.
Yes, I love that. Like, I am going to snatch that quote. Like, I love, love, love it, especially now. And we were kind of talking about this, and I know we're going to get into it a little bit more, but with this new AI stuff, like, we definitely have to begin implementing more strategies and more technology into all of our classes. And so I know we're going to get specifically into, like, some of the tools and tips for social studies teachers, but right away I just think about the fact that for a lot of social studies teachers, social studies is like that extra thing they have to do, right? It's not their primary certification level. It's just, something extra that was kind of added to their schedule. And so, before we even dive into all of the great tools and technology that you're going to share with us tonight, for that teacher that's just like, social studies isn't my thing, like, this is just extra. Like, how do you, like, what advice or encouragement, or how do they even find the time to, like, begin planning to use technology in a class that they just don't feel like is their primary focus?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked this question because about, God, I want to say 6 months ago, sometime in the fall, in my world, in the ed tech world, something big happened because a lot of times people see the technology as something separate. It's one more thing on your plate. And I'm gonna steal another quote from my good friend and my doppelganger, Joe Marquez. He says, "Technology is not one more thing on your plate. It is the plate, and it allows that plate to be bigger and hold more things than ever before. And if you see it through that lens, it seems more like as a tool to make me more efficient rather than some extra thing that I have to deal with." And I get this as a tech coach all the time. Oh, people will tell me ad nauseum. Oh, I'm not good with tech. I'm old school, and
Yes.
I don't know how to do tech. I go, do you have a cell phone? Oh yeah. Well then you're a lot better at technology than you think you are. And again, people will see someone like me with who they perceive I have these fancy tech skills, and it's intimidating. And that's the kind of the wall that I got to break down when I work with those teachers. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so that's the first step. But the book that my wife and I are co-writing about using Canva in a social studies class, we're targeting it mainly to those multiple subject teachers that social studies is just one more thing they have to teach. But let's be honest. Let's completely be honest here. What's
Right.
tested? It's not social studies. At least in California, there's no state test for social studies. Then I can't speak for every other state, but every other state's focused on ELA and math. And if I'm teaching multiple subject and I'm being held accountable for test scores, I don't blame them. They're gonna teach social studies when they can, if at all, and they're gonna focus on those tested subjects. And so I think science is lumped into that as well. So if you're teaching multiple subject and social studies is one more thing that you have to teach, that you whenever you get a chance, you probably don't enjoy teaching social studies. That's not that you don't have a degree in it like I do. You don't have a credential in it, and so you're just not sure what to do. And a lot of times I've walked into classrooms where social studies is, maybe once a week for 45 minutes, and they're just reading out the textbook out loud and answering questions at the end of a book, and kids are just sitting there banging their heads against the wall. They don't enjoy it, and I don't blame kids for that. I've been that boring teacher before, and I've had to learn the hard way and how to adapt to meet the kids where they're at. So this book here is we're coming up we're coming up with a lot of templates and ideas that are ready made, that those multiple subject teachers can just pull straight from the book and start injecting some creativity into their class. They want to go beyond just focusing on that textbook. They can use that textbook as just maybe a foundation where they pull some information, and then kids can engage with Canva to really see themselves in what they're learning, and put their own spin on it, and really jazz up that social studies class. That's kind of what we're aiming for with the book at this point.
Yes, so tell us about how we can jazz up the social studies classroom. How can we move away from being that traditional teacher where, you pull out the book, go through some chapters, do some worksheets, maybe incorporate a discussion in there, to actually using technology and making social studies fun and engaging for the students?
But one of the quotes that my wife and I we put in one of our favorite quotes from our tech coaching book that we had published a few years back is that we lead with learning, not with tech. So we're not going to force technology unless it's actually going to actually enhance the learning. So that's the first thing there. Um, but when it comes to technology, a real simple way is a session that I presented at conferences across the country. It's called The Power of the Stop Sign. I'm a big believer in building a culture in my classroom of student elicited feedback. It's not just going from me to the student. I want to build a culture where they're actually asking me for feedback. And that's where technology can really help build that culture. Kids in general don't want to ever be wrong. They don't want to raise their hand and ask questions because they risk putting themselves out there, being vulnerable, and thinking that they're wrong. Some kids don't care, but a lot of kids, especially since COVID, kids have become a lot more introverted. So I want to kind of really develop those relationships and more personalized learning. So what I've done through probably the last 4 or 5 years, I have not taught any lesson live. I don't do whole class instruction because for me it was like herding cats. I could not. It was just one behavior issue after another. Kids, I'm like, I got to find something better. And I was trying to really work on kids coming to me for feedback, not just me doing this autopsy at the end of whatever activity that they were doing. So I wanted to kind of figure out what way I can get them to I can ask me for feedback, and then I'm actually grading their work as they go. So when they're done, I already know that their work is solid in quality because I graded it on the way. So that's where the power of the stop sign comes in. So what I started doing is kind of pre-recording um, my lessons into chunks of when I taught high school, 4 to 5 minutes max. When it's middle school, 3 to 4 minute little chunks. And I would use something like Nearpod or quizzes, and I would put these little video chunks on there where the kids would have to watch my video. I didn't pull it from someone else. I created the video. I wanted them to come from me, and they would their job was to create something while they or take notes while they are going through each little chunk. And in Nearpod or quizzes, I can put in some checking for understanding questions. But once they get to that point, I put a slide with a big fat stop sign, and I put it because the students I work with were English learners. Some of them didn't even speak English. So I put it English and Spanish. I go, stop, raise your hand, and have the teacher come over here and check your work before you move on. I had to approve them before they could move on. So I could catch their mistakes. I could reteach them one-on-one, and they could feel comfortable asking questions from me in a one-on-one situation rather than whole class. If I saw some mistakes, something that they were missing, I could say, hey, go back, rewatch this part of the video, fix your mistakes, come back and show me, and I'll approve you to move on. And one of my best teacher wins, I think, in my entire career came from a student I was teaching a class for in California. It's 10th grade world history. And I had a senior in that class who was taking it for the third time. He'd never gotten an A or anything in his life. And a lot of times when you get those seniors in a sophomore class, you're like, oh, here we go. That's one of those kids. And my whole system of the power of the stop sign, where that stop sign was just a reminder for kids to stop, pause, reflect, come bring me over and have that individual teaching moment, really resonated with him. And it got to the point where he got so good, he had an A the whole year. I was checking his work, and he didn't turn anything in without me checking every aspect of it. It got to the point in the second semester where I kind of pulled that scaffold away. I stopped putting stop signs. For him and all the other students were calling me over whether there was a stop sign or not. This student got to the point where toward the spring semester, when he was doing a lot of senior activities, he'd be out. He would email me on the weekend and said, hey, mister, can you give me some feedback before I finish this and turn this in? And that really allowed me to use that technology to really build those relationships. It was nothing fancy. I didn't have to write any code or become an expert on anything. It was simply putting those stop signs. Whether it was paper, pencil, worksheets, I would put those stop signs at strategic points, and allowed me to really build those relationships with that student. That student that I was talking about now, he graduated 2 years ago. He's now finishing up his welding degree, and is going to be making $50 an hour before age 21. So I'm really proud of him.
Yes, that is awesome. And I love the power of the stop sign, especially the quote where you talked about, stopping and giving feedback throughout rather than doing the autopsy at the end. Golden, like that is so good. And obviously, just from the story that you shared, it has a positive impact on the students. So thank you for sharing that strategy. I love it. And so the power of the stop sign, which you can implement, using technology, but also if you're using like worksheets and things of that nature, you can strategically put your stop signs there. Any other tips, tools, and strategies that you have that can be used and this really could be used in any class, but in social studies as well?
You know what? I guess I'm writing the book about Canva, so I might kind of focus on that. But it's all about engaging kids in creativity, and Canva is a brilliant tool for getting kids to be creative. So if you're an example from a class that actually I was subbing one day for a teacher who was absent, who was teaching an economics class, and they were making a business, and a very common activity is to have them kind of make a business proposal to investors. And so I kind of just interjected. I thought I was overstepping my bounds a little bit, but the teacher appreciated it. Said, "Hey, what you need to do for your proposal, you need to create a logo for your to have on the top of your proposal, so it looks more official." So we I had the kids log into Canva, and in their groups they were creating logos for their business. And just a real simple way to do that, making logos. I know we're talking about in our book, especially in the I believe it's in the grade 3-5 grade span, about making tourist pamphlets for different places and stuff like that. And there's just so many ways that you can get kids just engaged in that process with Canva. Just they have all the new the video tools that they've added recently. Just tons of ways that you get all the students doing something creative instead of what Canva will allow you to do is get your students to be get them to be creators of content, not just passive consumers. And when the kids and if you just allow them to just to play with it, they can't break the internet. Allow them to just play with the tool. You will be so surprised on and just astonished at some of the creativity of them. I mean, I used to do some activities with Google Slides where the kids would have to create diagrams using just the line and the shapes tool. And I was just astounded at how creative they got with that. Then I gave them Canva, which is much more robust, and
Right.
they flew with it. So, kids who have been really disillusioned by school that they think is boring, something like Canva can really get them to kind of change that mindset.
Yes, and we have been discussing like the it's so many ways you can use Canva in the classroom. It simply like blows my mind. It's so amazing. And so for those of you who have not caught any of our Canva episodes, you definitely want to catch. We had one with Amanda Fox, and then another with I, I lost the name, but it was Canva in the math classroom, and it was
The Heather
yes,
Heather
Heather.
Brown.
So it was Canva in the math classroom. So definitely either follow us at Teacher Goals on the YouTube channel. You can catch those replays. Or if you listen to podcasts, whatever platform you're on, the Teacher Goals podcast, you will find those episodes there as well. And I mean, they give you like how to get access to templates and tools. Like it's crazy what you can do with Canva in the classroom. And so we have that as well as the Canva in the classroom books, which you can check out at teachergoals.com/books. And so, yes, there is so much that you can do with Canva, with other technology tools. But as we know, as educators, wherever there is something good, there is always a challenge. And so when teachers are trying to implement technology into their social studies classrooms, like what's a challenge that they face? And most importantly, how can they overcome this challenge?
One thing that teachers need to know when it comes to technology in their classroom, no matter what they're teaching, is that you don't have to be the expert on that technology tool to use it. As my good friend and mentor John Kripa says, in every class you have 30 kids who can be IT for you, IT support for you. The kids will figure it out, and the fact that you would empower them to kind of learn stuff and and teach you about it, that just builds a really good rapport in your classroom. So again, that's don't feel like you have to be the expert. Learn by doing that. You're setting the precedent. Hey, I'm a lifelong learner. I'm learning with the students. I'm not here. You're not learning just from me. I'm learning with you, and that's a great way to really build an awesome sense of community in your class. And you might get students who may be turned off to the traditional teacher, and you kind of switch that model. They may engage with you a lot better. So that's the first thing. You really don't have to be an expert. Uh, right now, we're living in a world where AI is blowing up like crazy, and the first thing people say is, "Oh, plagiarism." And you know what? You're right. That the first thing when I started seeing things like ChatGPT and all these other different AI platforms is, yeah, kids are going to cheat. But guess what? For all of the history of education, kids have always found a way to cheat. It's time for us to kind of evolve our pedagogy to because this tool is not going away. I saw a great meme. I can't remember who posted it about that AI is not going to replace you. Someone who can use AI will likely be the one who replaces you. So it's something that it's scary. Your concerns are valid, but it's something that we have to learn. I was actually trying to really get better at it. What I've learned about AI so far, AI is only as good as the prompts that the human beings are putting into it. I spent actually most of the day today, right up until we got on the online here today, unpacking some history standards using AI, and the productivity that I was able to accomplish today was amazing because of the AI, and it really allows me to dig deep in these standards and provide some much needed resources for the teachers that I'm supporting. So there's that fear level of any new technology tool and how to manage it, how to deal with it, and you know what? I have more certifications in technology tools than I can count, but I didn't take a course on it. I didn't go to college for this. My college degree was in history, so was my credential. I'm completely self-taught. There's really nothing that I can't learn just by connecting with my PLN, by doing some research, by doing on Google, by going to YouTube. And I'm self-taught, and what that has allowed me to become a lifelong learner. So if you're having that hesitancy about technology, you need to tap into that lifelong learner part of you. Um, and the beauty about the EdTech community, it's one of the most giving communities there is. When I first got started in my EdTech journey, got over 7 years ago, the best advice someone told me was that get on Twitter. All the experts are out there giving away their knowledge for free. So here I am, just create my Twitter account. I've had it for about a year. Had about 12 followers. I was only following sports and news, and I started connecting with the titans of the edtech industry, people with hundreds of thousands of followers, people like Dave Burgess and Alice Keeler. And I reached out to them and DM them, and minutes later they're DMing me, this nobody back. I'm like, wow, this titan of the industry is helping me out. And as I've kind of established myself in the industry, I've done my best to pay it forward. So when you're learning something new with the technology, reach out to the people that you consider to be experts. In this industry, we're very giving. Don't feel free to reach out.
Yes, great advice. And what you said about AI is spot on. Our last two episodes that were released, we had Dan Fitzpatrick, who is the author of AI in the classroom. And when I say he shared so much about AI, like from lesson planning to grading, like how to use those prompts in Chat GPT in order to speed up the process that you're currently using. So definitely check out those episodes because they were golden. AI is seriously changing the game, like changing everything that we do. It's crazy what that tool can do. So you were dead on with your advice. And so we are going to wrap it up with just one more question for someone that is listening right now and they're like, I want to start incorporating more technology in my social studies classroom. What is one action that they can implement tomorrow when they step into their classroom?
You know what? One of the things that that I've always been a champion of. My wife and I talked about it in our first book. We say that if you plan with the 4 C's in mind, the tech will take care of itself. So the 4 C's: critical thinking, collaboration, communication, and creativity. So what we've done, one of our favorite sessions to actually facilitate with teachers, it's like a mini workshop. We just take a whiteboard, we draw a four square, and we put each of the 4 C's, and above the that four square with each C, you put your learning goal, and then we kind of walk you through the process. So sort of reflect what are the student moves? What are the students going to be doing as they engage in each of the 4 C's? And as you go through that brainstorming process, the technology will come in naturally. We say it happens organically. So if you're looking to find where technology is going to help the most, if you look through the lens of the 4 C's, the technology will fit in where it'll fit in a natural way. It's not going to be forced in. A lot of times we we do our lesson plans and then say, okay, now where do we put the tech? That's not going to work.
Right.
It's not natural. It has to be weaved within it. So what we do with that four square, and they've kind of walked in, seen where the kids are going to engage each C, and maybe in some of the C's you have the technology, some you don't. That's fine. But once you've done that process, now you're like, all right, now I see where it fits in. It's going to fit in natural. It's all based off of my unique experience, my skill set, and what I'm comfortable with. And as I get better and better with technology and my toolbox gets deeper, when I do that brainstorming with the 4 C's, technology starts to come in a lot more often, but it's based off my ability, my skill set, that time. And so you take that brainstorming, that four square, and you can plug that into any district mandated lesson plan template.
All right, awesome. So definitely we'll have to get more information about that. And for someone that's like, teach me more, give me some information about the 4 C's or Canva in the social studies classroom or the power of the stop sign, where can they find you?
I'm pretty easy to find. I'm not hiding. You can find me on social media. I'm at Tech Coach Juarez. Give me a follow. I always follow back. I love growing my PLN. And I do my best to respond to people within 48 hours. Like I said earlier, those titans of the ed tech industry when I was new, they were very giving to me. So it's my obligation to give back. Hit me up. I'll do my best to support you.
Love it. So at Tech Coach Juarez on Twitter, right? Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I think I even
Okay.
have it. I think I even have a Facebook page that's Tech Coach Juarez as well.
Oh, all right. So he is everywhere.
Yeah.
So definitely you can find him on all the social media platforms. Well, thank you so much for sharing the tools and tech with us tonight that we can use in social studies, and all of these strategies we really can use across all the subject areas. But we appreciate you sharing with us tonight.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. It's been a blast.
Yes. And so I want to give the opportunity for questions. I'm going through the comments right now. And so if you have any questions, now is the time to ask. And I want to shout out Elena, who is doing such a fabulous job tonight, giving us all of the links. So thank you so much. We appreciate you. But we have his website up right now. Yes. And so I'm looking at some of the comments. I just want to encourage. Dr. Sherilyn Fletcher says she had a bad experience recently when we were talking about that interview. So that message was for you. Don't give up hope. Don't give up the faith. You definitely can still get that job. Jane said, good point, Adam, when we were talking about technology and using AI. So thank you so much for that. And I am going through to see if we have any questions. And I do not see any questions that we have. And so thank you guys so much for hanging out with us tonight. It was truly an enjoyable conversation. We learned a lot about technology and tips and tools that we can use. And once again, we are putting up so that you can follow, and it's at Tech Coach Juarez everywhere: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We found the website, so it's the same everywhere. So we thank you so much for hanging out with us. Thank you for sharing all of your knowledge. And thank all of you, our listeners and members of the Teacher Goals community, for hanging out with us. We appreciate you. And, hang in there. For those of you that are in the 20, 29, 30 days, you are almost there. And so thank you for hanging out. And we will be back next Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a great night, everyone.